Hello, super readers and writers. Today we will be reading a book titled One Happy Classroom, written by Charnan Simon and illustrated by Rebecca McKillip Thornburg. Does anybody know another fancy word for the person who writes the book? And in this case, that's Charnan Simon? Yes, the author. Repeat after me, author. If the author writes the book, then the illustrator must draw the pictures. Just like how you drew pictures of the plot for a squiggly story, the illustrator drew the pictures in this book, including this beautiful cover. Now, what do you notice about the illustrations on this cover? I'll go first. I notice there are two teachers, 1 and 2. Which reminds me of my own classroom. How about you? Before we get started, remember to listen carefully and think about what happens in the beginning, middle, and end. Also, I may ask some questions while I read, so feel free to say your answers out loud. Okay, let's get started. One happy classroom. Wow, look how clean this classroom is. And what do you notice in this classroom? Two smiling teachers. Oh, I do notice a smile right here, and I notice a smile right here. Three leaning towers made by 4 busy builders. I wonder what the word leaning means if it's describing the towers of blocks. 5 show and tellers. Ooh, look what they all have. 6 good listeners. Can you spot who the 6 good listeners are? Remember, good listeners have their eyes on the book and they're looking towards the teacher. They're also sitting nicely, have their listening ears on. 7 great painters using 8 different colors. 9 pairs of partners. Remember, pairs are when there are 2 people together. So if you could see here, 2 students are holding hands. I wonder where they're going. Look at what they have in their hands. Right? You notice there's a teacher in the front of the line and there's a teacher in the back of the line. Ooh, can anyone guess where they are right now? What setting is this? Setting means where is this taking place? 10 crunchy apples. I love that word crunchy. It's describing how the students are eating their apples. 9 high climbers over 8 hide and seekers. Can you spot which students are climbing and which students are hiding? 7 quiet resters. I wonder how you can tell if someone's resting. Does this remind you of a time where you really tried to rest but you couldn't? I've been there. 6 in a hurry. Oh, I love how the author added an exclamation mark at the end. That's why I read it with a little more feeling, right? 6 in a hurry. Where are they going? They do look like they're very antsy and they need to be somewhere. 5 big projects. Ooh. Oh, I noticed someone on the floor. I wonder if that student should be there. 3 clean cages. So they're cleaning cages. I wonder, what are these cages for? And the classroom looks a little different from before, doesn't it? 2 stuck zippers. Can you spot the 2 stuck zippers? Remember, zippers are attached to pants, jackets. It's what helps you open and close them. 1 happy classroom. Wow. What do you notice? In the end, I want us to go back to page 3, and I want us to take a real good look at this page. This was the first page in the story. And if you notice, the text is 1 happy classroom. So the author is describing this classroom here as a very happy classroom. However, I want us to jump back to the last page in the story, and I want us to notice that, look, this classroom is also called 1 happy classroom. But the classes look very different, don't they? What do you see that makes each classroom happy? I want you to think of maybe 2 or 3 things that makes both classrooms happy, even though they might look a little different. I also want to look at who the characters are in this book. Remember, the characters are the people in the story, who the story is about. So if you look here, who are the characters in the story? We mentioned before the 2 teachers, and we see that there are several wonderfully happy students. Now let's really think about where this story takes place. And if you look at all the pages in this story, where can you find these scenes? For example, where would you find 2 teachers sitting on chairs and 5 students up and doing show and tell? I also want you to think about some of the main events that are taking place in this story. So we noticed that in the beginning, they were greeting the teachers, right? They were doing some activities. And here you see they're listening to the teacher read a story, just like how you're listening to me read the story right now. What new activities do you notice that the children discover in kindergarten? Ooh, it looks like they have time to paint. And can anyone guess? I know I posed this question before, but where do you think these students are going? Let's look at some clues, because great readers look at the illustrations to find clues. So I noticed like a lunch bag here, a brown paper bag. You know, some students aren't carrying one. Maybe they're grabbing lunch from school, right? It looks like maybe they're going to lunch. Ah, prediction was correct. It looks like they're eating rather healthy lunches. Most of them are holding apples, crunchy apples, because that's the sound it makes when you bite into an apple, right? Let's see what other main events take place in this story. Oh, yeah. in the playground. Do you notice that there's several students hiding and there's several students climbing? Oh, and I notice one of the teachers is also playing hide and seek. I want us to also really examine whether the text matches the illustration. So for example, here it says 7 quiet resters. Would you say the text matches the illustration? I'd say so. In fact, let's try to identify who the 7 quiet resters are. He looks like he's sleeping. So 1, 2, 3, 4, ooh, all the way over here, 5, 6, oh, and 7. 7 quiet resters. Again, let's just make sure that the text matches the illustration. So 6 in a hurry. I want you to quietly count in your heads how many children there are waiting in this line. Okay, and here you'll notice as well, you have the text here made up of words, and then you have the illustration to match the words. And can anyone tell me here, how many words are in this sentence? Why don't we hold up our fingers while I read this sentence? 5 big projects. I decided to put up 3 fingers. How about you? 3 clean cages. How many words would that be? So let's count. 1, 2, and 3. You should have 3 fingers up in the air. 2 stuck zippers. All right, so let's see if we can find them. I won't give it away. And here again, the illustration does match the text. And here we are, the last page again, One Happy Classroom. So what I want you to do is I want you to reread this story so you could play it from the beginning. And I want you to count the number of teachers and children on the cover. I want you to identify the different objects in the classroom. For example, here I noticed that there's a book on the floor with some headphones, some paint. Because remember, these are all characteristics of what a kindergarten classroom might look like. Until we meet again, I want you to think about what happened again in the beginning, middle, and end. And I want you to complete the graphic organizer that's in your notebooks on my book, page 7.